Good morning, everybody. My name is Irving Berkner. I am the Education Director at the Alumni Association here on campus. Thank you all for joining us at 8:30 on a Saturday morning to come talk about our web community. You are in the historic Barack Obama seminar room, so rumor has it that everyone in this room will eventually get a Nobel Peace Prize. You all seem to have a lot of promise, so that's good. This is the Getting the Most from the Web Alumni and Friends web community, since you can read. And it's my pleasure to introduce our presenters this morning. We have Joe Seligman, the Assistant Vice President for Strategic Communications. Over there is Eric Horner, the Senior Associate Director for Interactive Media, and then Ryan Nagdeman, who is the Director of Interactive Media. This is the team that put the web community together. I'm sure it's going to be a great session. I have sign-up sheets I'll be passing around. I know many of you did register for this, but we're just double and triple checking. So if you could sign in and just sort of leave them on that side of the room, that would be great. So that's it. Turn it over to you guys.
Okay, so can everyone hear pretty well from here? Great. So why don't you go right to there. So you guys can take a seat, and I'll go through these first couple of slides. And I want to actually start by saying that the alumni web community is obviously a work in progress. We've been building out programs and elements of this web community now for at least 3 years and planning it for even longer than that. And we're going to talk specifically today about some of the objectives of the program, just to give it some context. Also show you what is already launched and what was built for the first phase that went live in late April of this year, and then talk a little bit about some of the feedback that we've received about the web community, and also give you an idea of what is coming next. So before we do that, I want to say I'm really happy to be able to be here to talk with you about this today, because I am also one of you at the other institutions that I attended. I'm an alumni class officer for the class of '89 at Cornell, and I'm also the chair of the alumni board of the doctoral program that I did at Penn. And I often sit where you're sitting, hearing about ways that we can enhance alumni participation and communication, and I want to be as helpful to all of you as my colleagues are at those other institutions. So first, I'd like to ask you, just to get a sense of what's on your minds and make sure that we include it in the program today, what are the questions on your minds that prompted you to choose this session over some of the other sessions that are going on right now? Anybody have some ideas or questions you want to toss out that you absolutely want to get an answer to today? Yes?
I'm actually, good morning, I'm new here with the hospitals, but I'm the class of '99.
Hi.
And I'm here in that dual capacity. I am in the Office of Community Affairs, and we're always looking for ways to recruit new volunteers. And we work with the Pritzker School of Medicine a lot, so bringing in alumni to help them do some of their efforts would be great. So I'm just looking for a way to communicate better with alumni about some opportunities to stay engaged.
Okay, terrific. Hi, Linda?
I'm Linda Neal. I was once president of the Alumni Governing Board, and a great enthusiast for better communication with alumni, more strategic communication with alumni. And currently I'm the class correspondent for my law school class, which is a very active, interactive class. And various of them have said over the years, isn't there some way we can do this online? And so maybe there will be. And I'm also on the committee for our 45th class reunion. And it would be nice if there were some tools that would aid with turnout for that event.
Terrific. Welcome. And where are you now?
I live in Chicago.
Here in Chicago?
3 blocks away.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming all the way over. Hi, Derek.
From AM from the Hair School in 93, and I represent LA Alumni Club. We have a lot of diverse needs for online presence, and so we've been pushing the envelope on Twitter, Facebook, our own web community. I'd like to see if we could have a tighter integration with strategic communication, just to get information out as timely as possible.
And when you say greater integration, do you me a specific example or two?
We've heard that like the turnaround time to get publications out, like an email blast, is like a minimum 7 days. Sometimes that's not efficient enough, and sometimes, unfortunately, the wrong message gets out. We've seen a lot of errors in the messaging, and so we don't have a control over what is sent out to our 6,000 alumni community because we don't get a chance to proof it. And so I'd like to see that there be a way that we could either get a final review or at least have input what goes in. I've just, I'm an alumni also with UCLA as an undergrad. They have very tight integration of their community and their email blasts that have calendar, not just only future events, but past events, what's going on. And I think our email blasts tend to be a mixture of news that comes from the UChicago magazine and events that come from our LA community. So I personally get lost because they look the same, the two email blasts, but a lot of times they're future-oriented, and then the same future events come up in the emails.
So clarity in the email and having it more strategic and certainly having it correct is important. Okay. Okay. Great. Anything else before we dive in? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sarah Saperstein. I'm Assistant Director for the Midwestern Southern Regional Space Alumni Relations here at the university. And I'm here a bit in a dual role because I'm actually representing about 12 clubs that actually don't have representation here in person this weekend. But when they found out that this was happening, they asked me to bring up, because so many of the clubs that I deal with are in a very tight Midwestern region, many of our volunteers and active veterans will be very interested in being able to see what is going on around them, because frequently while their club may not have any activity, someone in Columbus might be in St. Louis, might be in Tulsa, might be somewhere nearby, and they'd like to be able to plug into that community. So they would be interested in having ease of access of information to be able to see what's going on not only in their city, state, but also their region.
Okay. Great. And last one, and then we'll dive in since we have a lot to cover. Hi, Tom.
Public Interest Program. The piece that one of the core values of the university is to bring together a lot of different ideas, a lot of different subjects. Harris School, SSA, college, business school. So how do you tie together all these communities? It's a little bit of the integration issue that you're talking about, but not based on geography, based on background and school you came from and stuff like that too.
Sure. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to have some way, and you've led into it perfectly, to illustrate or at least begin thinking about this as part of a larger solution. And I am delighted that one of my key team members, Mary Rufio, is here, who is the executive editor of the editorial department, which produces our magazine, as well as the Core, which is the college magazine, and all of the other alumni and fundraising-related printed materials and web content that you see. So they are the written word people for alumni affairs and alumni relations and development. And a lot of what we're working on for the solution, creating this web community, is also going to help bring content together from various places where we've had it in print in the past, and also create communities where people can talk about let's say, current issues that may have interesting, different types of voices and opinions coming from the public policy side, the law side, the economic side, the medical school side, et cetera. We recently spent a considerable amount of time meeting face-to-face, well, not quite face-to-face, I shouldn't say. We did 8 focus groups with alumni in 4 different cities over the last couple of months to specifically ask them what kind of content for the magazine and for our other communications would be appealing to them, and they said exactly what you said, that sort of diversity of opinion, and tell us what the great minds of the alumni population and the faculty population at the University of Chicago think about the economic situation, think about healthcare reform, et cetera. And we want to, if we are successful with this, which of course we will be, we want to build a platform upon which that kind of conversation can happen, because the appetite is great for that type of content among the alumni population of the university. So let me just dive into talking about this a little bit. So, and my job here is to put this into context, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues who are going to talk more about the specifics. There are two enormous goals that we have across alumni relations and development at the university. And not surprisingly, one of them has a financial aspect to it. And that is we want to reach and sustain $500 million a year in fundraising progress. And we just had our first $500 million year this past fiscal year that ended on June 30th. Our goal is to reach and sustain that level of fundraising as we lead into a future campaign. The second goal is to engage more than 50% of our alumni. So some of you may have heard this described as 50%.
What number is that, 1.5 or
50. 50% plus 1 is our goal. So we want to hit 50% and get one more person in. You may be that one person, but obviously you're already engaged. We want to try and get more people in this room and in all of the other activities happening around the world to the point where we have more than half of our alumni actively engaged as alumni volunteers or donors or as interviewers for admissions and all the other capacities that alumni serve in. And this project is part of helping us reach those goals, and that is creating an engagement tool which can bring the University of Chicago to people who may not physically be able to be here for events like this, or who may not be able to attend events because they live in a place where there isn't a critical mass of the number of alumni, but can still connect with other University of Chicago alumni through the internet and can connect with programming that we have available, find their friends, find career opportunities, and do all of the kinds of things that you might expect as an engaged person in the University of Chicago community. So that is the really broad set of goals.
Where are we currently on that benchmark of engagement?
So we are currently in the high 20% range, and we expect that it's going to take us a long time to get to 50%. Our goal is to reach 50% plus 1 by 2016, which is the 125th anniversary of the university, and may coincide with the end of our next fundraising campaign. That may be the last year of the next campaign as well. So there are many things going on in addition to this, creating this web community that attempt to get us closer to that goal.
So can I just ask one
Yeah.
question?
Mm-hmm.
You've articulated the motivation of the university. I don't hear anything about, other than just generic involvement, satisfying alumni
Mm-hmm.
desires, needs, potential, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice to hear something coming from the audience side in terms of your goal.
Yes,
other
yes.
than just involvement, but maybe it doesn't matter.
Well, it certainly does matter. And so in terms of the engagement piece, one of the major questions that we're asking alumni now, and it was part of the focus group research that we did, is what do they want? What do they expect from the university?
Eventually there'll maybe be a broad goal formulated that will guide some of the decisions.
Yes, absolutely.
Relating to that end of it.
Absolutely. I mean, we do know already, for instance, right now, particularly in this economic environment, that career planning and career assistance is something that is expected of the university, and we have built up those resources considerably over the last 18 months, and that continues to be something we hear that alumni want more of. So there are specific things that are built into the program, and so career mentoring from other alumni is something that's a response to the demand that our alumni have, and also having tools such as you'll see in this community where people can connect with other people in the same career field or in a career field that they want to switch to. There's a whole suite of career services in there. Derek?
Sorry, quick question.
Yeah.
To endeavor that goal, is the university willing to relax on some of its policies? For example, putting lectures on YouTube. You could broadcast this community right now on Ustream, and people would be logging in right now. And it seems like a lot of these things that the university wants to get to, there's a lot of approval processes to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, by the time it gets to implementation,
Mm-hmm.
it's further downstream.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know that there are active conversations right now about how we use YouTube and iTunes and all kinds of other open places where we can store media that would be available to alumni and others. And I think that the institution has turned a corner where we now view those as opportunities, and we're more in the mode of figuring out how to take the best advantage of them than we are in the mode of saying, no, we want to keep it all within our own world. So I'm optimistic that you'll see more of those kinds of things, that the culture has turned for sure. At least this is my third year here, so I have many colleagues who have been here much longer than I have, and they really believe that the culture has turned a lot. So I haven't seen as much of that turn as they have experienced, but I do think that...
Because some other universities are using it to their marketing.
Yeah.
The access. So I could see where if there was great knowledge of, you could just go there and see a lecture at the University of Chicago from various schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's a marketing event for, like I went to a college fair on Tuesday. I could just say, hey, you want to see what Chicago's like? Here's a lecture.
Yeah, yeah. So I won't go into telling you what you already know about the culture of the University of Chicago, but I have learned that it is a place that has historically really looked inward more than it has looked outward, and it took me less than 3 years to figure that out. But I see tangible things that have happened, big things. So, for example, we did not have a vice president for communications for the university until 2.5 years ago, and we now do. And we now have a growing, robust communications operation, which is represented here today by Renee. And we have a much broader thinking about the strategic use of communications and how we position the institution externally than we have before. And frankly, I think we're behind many of our peer institutions in doing that, and we all know that, and we're investing more and doing more. And we will ultimately catch up with the people that we consider to be ahead of us, but we're not quite there yet.
We've only got a half an hour left, so let's go.
Yes, we got to go. We got to get caught up. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to you folks to talk about the demo and where we are now. This is, again, Ryan Magdeman, who's our Director of Interactive Media, and Eric Warner, who is Senior Associate Director of Interactive Media.
Okay. So what we're going to do is give you a demo of the site that currently exists, and this site, as Joel mentioned, went live May 2009, and we'll take you through the site and then also give you a sense of some of the responses that we've discovered from the site launch. So go ahead and switch over to the site. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have seen this site and worked with it, maybe found a friend through the directory or even registered for an event? Okay, so about half. So just maybe to highlight one of the points that I think Joel was making about how we're sort of turning the corner, a big initiative here with this website was to make things more sensible to the users. And so 5 or 6 years ago, a lot of the content or experiences that you might have on the community site existed in 4 or 5 different destinations. And so there was an alumni association site, there was a site to make a gift, there was a site to read about profiles about people who are supporting us as volunteers or as donors. And so through our partnership with the Board of Governors who said, we need to do this, we need to invest more in this area, and some research that we did, we ultimately came up with the idea that we would have one destination that would be the center of gravity for a lot of our communications, where we would refer to this site. It ultimately became the Alumni and Friends web community. And so essentially there's a lot going on here, and so I'll kind of highlight some of the features and give you a little tour. So this is the destination. We are here at the homepage, and essentially for the launch, what we wanted to do is give a little marquee here that kind of gives you the highlights in a quick way. Get a better job. It's linking you into the Career Network, become a mentor, another feature of the Career Network. Find a friend, register for an event. We also have, if you can go back up there, a quick start guide. The web community takes advantage of the CNET ID, so students who are currently here now, this is what they use to get around the technology here on campus, and we figure as they leave, we thought that would be an optimal way to allow them to keep their CNET ID as access to the site. People who don't have one have the ability to come back in and claim a CNET ID and get access to the website. So essentially, the sections of the site that we wanted to create were modeled around the three biggest behaviors that we thought the alumni and friends would partake in. So that is connecting and learning, it's giving, and volunteer functions. Also, an advancement that we have here is the My Profile. In the past, if you wanted to let us know that you've moved or you've updated something, you might have to call someone or email someone. And now the ability to come in here and to control your profile and hit submit pushes that information back to our system of record. So that's been helpful. So I'll hop around the sections. Eric, if you could jump us into Connect and Learn, I'll give you an idea of what's in there.
Must be a little bit tricky to get in the first place, otherwise anybody could change it.
Yeah, the older system we were using was not as secure, and so it didn't take advantage of the campus authentication system. So using CNET, as a proven secure system provided by network services here on campus, so we feel it's a lot more protected. Every week, Ed and Eric are telling me that there's how many attempts to break in, and we feel like it's more than secure. So.
But sort of non-techie people won't have any trouble getting in if they're alumni?
Well, the CNET experience is one. So Ed Kane is here from our office. Ed, if you want to raise your hand, he runs our help desk, and so we have a help desk that's running during business hours every day. And we get a lot of people that call that aren't familiar with the CNET process, and Ed takes them through that experience. We think that even if you've never heard of it and you've never done a password situation before, it's a 5-minute experience working with that over the phone to get that done. It is something that's new to alumni that come from more than 10 years out. But if you've been with the university in the last 10 years, you had it on campus. And it's just an extension to your alumni experience, and it's very familiar to people that have used something like that for maybe a bank or for a secure site elsewhere. The nice thing that we have with it is that the security is monitored by the university, and it's the same security that they've got at the National Lab, and it is 100% secure. We also offer some new technologies that have a sticky login. So what we've done is we've bundled all the places where you might have to log into the university into this experience so that you can hop around from site to site and still sees that you're logged in. You don't have to do that multiple times. And we felt that was a real advancement, and we're seeing more and more places. We think the library pretty soon will come into that as well. And so you'll be able to navigate through all the different areas of the university with one login.
Okay, so some of the things that you could find that you will find in the Connect and Learn section essentially is the alumni directory is here. We also have listings for clubs and groups contacts in the regional areas. We have an events calendar, so here are the events that are going on in your area that you can search by region. Yes?
On the events, one of the things that I had hoped that you would do, because I'm involved in the Chicago Club and we put on lots of events, is to be able to sign up for more than one event at a time. In other words, to select 3 events, sign up 1 credit card. Instead of you go in, you have to pay, then you go find another event, sign up. Any hope that's going to come down the road, or why didn't you do that at the time? Because we put on lots of events here in Chicago, and it's very frustrating to sign up for 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can speak to that for a bit. So one of the things that we've got with this, Barbara, is that once you're signed in, it remembers your info. So if you do jump from one event to another event, you don't need to fill out, your address information and all of that. The credit card, we have it set for security reasons that we don't want the credit card number to stay populated in there. You have to fill in your credit card number each time, but that's really the only piece.
Why not have a checkout basket?
Yeah,
Put all your items in the basket before your credit card comes into the picture.
Yeah,
I think one issue there might be that the frequency that these events appear on our calendar and come off or occur, that we're not we might not be putting them up there in groups of 5 like that. So, but hearing that is a new idea that we've heard, and maybe when we think of how, when it's time to list those events out, that we could offer it in that way.
In the mail, I got a directory of Chicago events. It's a big fat booklet.
Yeah.
There they all are.
Which is easier than going to the website. But to follow up on that, that's another thing, because if you look for upcoming events, it will take you out on the calendar, but it seems like you can only sign up to, let's say you're out there through December, and I see events all the way through December, but I can only sign up through October. I have to go back in at another time to sign up for something in November. And I'm not sure why that is. Why can't I sign up for everything at once?
There's events are getting entered into the system over time, and so until the details of the event are finalized and we've got a credit card processor set up, that does take a little bit of time. So sometimes you'll see a backlog of events that we know the date, and we put sort of a save the date piece online while we're building the event form that's in the back end to register the credit card and to go through that whole piece. And now, we've made a significant step forward in having one event system where no matter what event you're registering for, it's always going to be the same system. And for staff, if you call in or if you wrote in, it's going to be the same system that takes down your information and processes your cards and does refunds if you call and have a problem. Whereas before we were using a number of different systems and we weren't integrated. So that is an advancement, but we're trying to work faster. Speed is definitely something that we've been getting better at, but we know we need to get a lot more efficient with.
In terms of events, are you picking up all the different pieces of the university and all their events?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we're seeing. The diversity of events that are available on the web community now is more than fourfold what we were at even 6 months ago. So we're even if there's events that are taking place, with the booth situation. So even events that come from a Booth, which currently Booth has their own web community that they're using, and so we've been able to integrate postings for Booth and refer you back to their site for an actual registration. International events, we're posting more international events than we ever did before, as well as some of the tools that we've seen here are available not only to staff but to volunteers. And so, for example, Derek's here. Derek was a beta tester for us, along with Albert and Tom, a couple other people. Being able to create events and put them into the system is something that now volunteers can do as well as staff members. So in the old system, we were relying on a staff member to, you'd have to contact them to get it in. But now you can get to that point where you're putting up the save the date and you're establishing that piece on the calendar, that beachhead, with the content right from the beginning. So that's been an advancement. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot that we need to continue to work on efficiency-wise. I'm going to sign in here because I want you to see the CNET process. We've also streamlined this. This started out as an experimental piece that only a few universities in the country were using. It was a new technology that the University of Chicago was able to take advantage of using a system called Shibboleth. So now I'm signed in. It's recognizing me. And I really recommend to all of you, the system will work in a lot of sites when you're not registered, but when you sign in, it's going to really populate with your tendencies. It sort of knows what you're interested in and where you live. You can see here our test user, Thomas, is in the Chicago area, and it's populating event suggestions for him that are in Chicago. We're currently doing the event recommendations on a regional basis, but we're also going to be adding to that things like your school. So school events related to your degree will pop up, and if you're involved in other clubs and special interest groups, those pieces will pop up as well. So it's nice to kind of get some suggestions for some events that are happening in Chicago. The other piece here that we've got is different looks. So we have that upcoming events, which only has the pieces that are completed. When you go to the events calendar, this is where you can see some of those events that are maybe in a save the date kind of a situation where they're still being built out. But we allow, with the calendar, you're able to look at events occurring during a particular week. You can specify that week, or you can pick the month, and then the events that are available then will change based on that. And you can really get an idea of how to plan out your time and see what's going on. So as we work with the segmentation and get to events in clubs in a more segmented way, allow you to get a little bit more specified, you'll see a lot more of those enhancements. But right now, it's just one major piece, one major calendar for everybody.
Is there a typographical differentiation between those that are still at the save the date stage and those that are fully fleshed out?
Well, you can tell from, let me go to the last here. We'll look at some of the events that are occurring in November and December. And here you can see we put these silhouettes in as sort of a placeholder until we're finalizing with a little bit more photography pieces. So a lot of times that's one indicator, and also you might see the date populated up here. Oh, this one is already done. So we get the events coming in from from different points in time, and it's just sort of a process for us.
So I guess what we're hearing is having better differentiation between those things that are ready to go, ready to register versus future save the dates. And we should just think about how we.
And that's a big distinction, whether you're available for online registration or not, and that's kind of a dividing line. You can get really annoyed if you don't understand that there are two different worlds there.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a suggestion, and following up with the basket idea, is having there's other social networking tools that say events I'm interested in or events I'm registered for, because otherwise people that come back, they come in once to the calendar, they look through all the different events, they shop through it, they look for what they wanted, they haven't registered yet. You don't want to have them have to go through that process twice.
Yeah, yeah. You turn people off from going to an event because they just don't think to come back.
Yeah,
one question I have about your interaction with this website and thank you, and perhaps the emails that we send out. Do you think about what's available to me, and percentage-wise, and then do you go to the site and look for it, or do you take advantage of the emails that highlight what's available in the area?
Okay, here's my thought: is that you don't want to be one-dimensional in communication. You don't want to have to have people go back. Where was that email? Was it in my inbox? Was it at work, or was it at home? People have to come up. The ideal is that people could just go straight to a web community. They know where it is. They go for it, and then they just find it wherever they are, on their friend's computer, if they're at work. Yep. So, granted, emails have some benefit in clicking through to a specific event, but the point, sometimes the events, the club may be planning well in advance of what the email parameters are, and so they want to look for something in December, but the structure of the emails won't go until September. So, I mean, that's where I think the community, you should have dynamic connectivity for users to interface, whether it be email or directly from the website.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is really a lot of the enhancements for Phase 2. And I think to go back to some of the pieces that Joel was highlighting initially, from a vision perspective, this web community was really started by the Board of Governors task force. And where we were at a few years ago, we really had a lot of silos, and there was not an integrated network for all the different pieces of the university. And we started to talk about how can we get that to be more integrated, and that was one of the initial visions. The Office of Strategic Communications that Joel is now part of is really an enhancement in how we're able to streamline our communications through that. Instead of having everything in a different silo, there's one stop where you can go to get that kind of calendar. Now, with that opening all that diversity up, that's where we also need to work on, being efficient with working on all of those different projects and streamlining them in. We've tried to do some templates and things to get to that point, but that's been a big part of this vision, and I think that the technology has been sort of trailing that to try to get to where we want to go with it. But you know, we do also have events piece, which we do a search for. And we've had a lot of folks talk about this. This is really a coding issue. For those of you that are informed about you know, the back end of web designs, you know, it's really about tagging content with the pieces. And so that's an additional add-on. After you've completed your content, you really like what's in here, then you tag it with, you know, the pieces that people might be searching for. And so we've got a lot of folks that are looking at our browsers here, and they're filling out every field in a search, and then they're getting, you know, they're saying, well, I gave it the whole title and the date of the event and the city, and it didn't give me anything. When this is really more set up to be more general. So, you know, start generally and then get more specific with your search. As we
pop up at the beginning that gives people this kind of orientation new to the site?
We've been adding tips here on the right, and so the right navigations over here have been a place where we've done some tips on that, and so that's the same sort of thing in the directory, and we'll take a look at that. But as you can see, you know, you can sort of limit your events to what is going on in California, or if you wanted to get more specific and talk about, you know, Los Angeles. So I could say LA or I could say Los Angeles. It's just going to make a different search depending. And yeah. Yeah, that's where what we're struggling with is we really want to add to this functionality like a club designation as opposed to just a geographic one, because we do have some different names for those terms. You know, we use things like metro codes, which is an internal coding of what regional area a person's in, but to a user that's sort of a foreign thing. So we want to try to add club affinity, and we're going to get into that when we get to the phase 2 piece that we show. So the first phase of this site, though, was that integral piece to allow the user to integrate and communicate directly with the university, which we just didn't have anything like that before. And so we feel like the phase 1 piece, that what we've introduced, does allow for that. And whether that be managing your career resources, which is an area we've put a lot of emphasis in, and working with Matt Donato's office to really have a career network that is, you know, integrating mentor relationships between younger alumni and older alumni, or between students and alumni. We've put a lot of emphasis into that. We've also been working on the directory piece to have more than just an address, but to allow people to be able to search for, let's see, Albert, do you mind if I use you as an example for a directory search? So, but to do more of a living piece where you can enhance your profile and have something displayed for other people to come and search on.
One thing I might do after he pulls up Albert is kind of fast track this tour to get to some of the other points that we wanted to cover. We only have 10 minutes left, but I also wanted to note that Ed, Eric, myself, we'll be out here somewhere with a couple of computers and for I think the rest of the day, at least until 2 o'clock, so we could do more of this tour out there and also answer some of your questions and definitely gather some of this feedback. But in the interest of 10 minutes on the clock, I kind of want to move us forward.
One more thing on the
Sure.
events.
Yeah.
Instead of going to search, can I, when, you know, with that long list of events, just say, I just want it to be have a kind of like a drop-down menu?
Yeah, and like I said, that is, you know, adding a club sort of a filter is another enhancement that we want to get to. Right now, you know, that's right. So our browsing, and as we've started entering events, we're, you know, where we were in the spring of last year, we had about 20 events occurring per month. Right now, we're at about 90 events per month. There's more events going on, which is great. They just weren't recorded, yeah, and combined in one place. And so we've really had to kind of scale up. And now we've seen that it's necessary that we have more tools to do searches, whereas where we were when we were initially planning it, you could look through a browse and you'd see all of the events rather easily. So those are enhancements that Ryan's talking about we want to get to.
And something I'm not seeing, and maybe I just don't know where it is. Is there a place for ongoing events that aren't just by one date in particular? So like I work at the medical center. We could provide, information on how you can volunteer in the hospital. Or, work with our med students on a mentoring program, which is an ongoing thing versus just one date.
That's a part of the experience where we as the Strategic Communications Office has been continuing to work with more and more programs and to say, how would you like your experience to be presented on the online community, and working with you to partner to get more of that program on the web and see how that's going. Currently, we've started with some basics. I mean, I mentioned how the Alumni Careers Program is up here. Irving's programs in the study trips has a piece, and they're presented. And we continue to expand that to more groups. The volunteer piece here in the web community is one where we really want to put a lot of enhancement in the next year. This is an area we'd really like to build out and make it for volunteers someplace that would be a home base where they could go to get involved in new activities. Here we've got some suggestions for some major areas where we do take in volunteers, whether that's doing internships or interviewing students or reunions. But we'd like to have all of our programs available here as well. Yeah. All right. This is some tracking we just wanted to show that we've really seen a growth in the number of people that have been using the web community over the last few months as people have become aware of it. And certainly the emails have been the biggest emphasis of that. We see the most amount of traffic when an email goes out to all of our areas, not just the areas that are mentioned in the email. And we're seeing more people logging in for more of their experience online, and that's been a good enhancement. We've also seen a significant uptick in, here we've had event registrations. The Alumni Weekend last year was the first event that was available through the web community, and so obviously being the biggest event at the university, that was a huge spike. A lot of people got some of their first experience with event registration there. We've also seen people are doing profile updates. This is where they're changing their personal information, and career updates, changing their mentor experience, and we're seeing a rise in those. And that's because with this new community, it used to be there was one form that you had to fill out if you wanted to tell the university you changed address or any sort of piece like that. But now there's hundreds of places where we're capturing that new information for you and communicating it back to the university. We're also allowing you to manage how you want to communicate with the university. And so people have responded to that with increasing numbers over the last few months. You want to mention?
Share a little bit of the focus group feedback. Yeah, sure. So I alluded earlier to the fact that we did 8 focus groups in August of this year. We're just getting the results of that. So a lot of the feedback that we've heard is in parallel with what we have heard from questions and comments that have come up in this session today. And most importantly, I would say a lot of it comes from the very broad rubric of user experience. So do those search fields populate in a smart way when you begin to type things? Should there be more clues there to tell you the difference between events that are eligible to register right now versus things that are just out there for publicity's sake for the future? Should there be and intuitive for all of you and others like you. Ryan, why don't you say just a word about the naming contest really quick, and then we'll move on.
Sure. So one of the the ideas here to drive traffic to the website that we wanted to have was to offer contests or opportunities for people to come in and participate in ways. The first one that we had here was, what would you name this community? The banner across the top is currently the Alumni and Friends online web community. There's a lot going on up there. So a few months ago we opened it up and asked alumni to submit names, and some ABG members and some members of the communications department kind of came up with, these are names that we could ultimately live with. Let's put these back out there for a vote. So we received over 3,000 entries from people, and currently the vote's going on right now. So visit the website and look at some of the options and cast a vote. But we've received over 9,000 votes on the 10 potential names, and so the tie-in there was that the winning name would be eligible to go on one of our alumni study trips, and so we see that as an opportunity to get people interested in using the site. Mayor Ruth and I are talking about ways to tie it into some of the magazine features. That discuss this article on one of the upcoming pieces in the magazine. Discuss it online on the web community. So I'll skip on now to the surge.
So I'm going to not be able to do justice to this in the remaining amount of time, and we still want to show you a little glimpse of what's coming in the future. But what we have had in terms of structure for supporting the website has been 2 full-time staff members dedicated to this all the time. One of those is Eric, and the other is Ed, who may have stepped out to take some calls at the help desk. But we have also just added 2 more positions over the last month. Someone who helps us with data coordination and connecting the data to our university database, and that's a critical piece of this, which hasn't been covered as well as it needs to be covered in the future. So we have that new person, and then we also have added another web developer to our staff who's helping to implement some of the solutions that we're coming up with. We are going to add 2 more people to this team. So what you see now is a result of having 2 people working on it full time. We've already added another 2, and we will add 2 more over the next several weeks. So I would say within a month from now, we will have a total of 6 people working full time on this project and on the release of the phase 2 items that you're about to see. I call it the surge because we're not going to need 6 full-time people permanently to work on this, but over the next 12 months, we really need to have more focused energy on it in order to get to the level of user experience that is expected by you and all of us. So that is something that we are moving forward with, and hopefully you will see the result of very soon. That includes people and dollars and some other things as well. What will you see next?
Okay, well, so the big part of the phase 2 is connecting alumni and friends within the community, and some of the things we're excited about are network sites, and discussions. And so go ahead and advance here. So I have a screen here of a build that we have. So imagine when you come into the community, and this might address. This is right around the corner. It's not live yet, but it's right around the corner. So imagine when you come into the site, and some of the things we heard about. I have to navigate through the events. I have to look at these things. Over there on the right, for example, we're telling you here are events that we think are of interest. These are in your area. These are events that might be of interest based on the school you graduated from. And that way, you might not have to go in and navigate through all the events where we're suggesting some for you. Also, the community is going to allow you to, when you find friends in the directory, add them to your network as kind of a contact list. These are people that I want to keep close. Kind of a Facebook Lite, if you will. But that way you don't have to go back into the directory later and search for them all over again. Some of the things that we have over here in the middle column, we want to start delivering all of our news and all the stories and content that we have through the website in a way where you could subscribe to different types of news. So go ahead and skip one more. This is a grab of, this is our test user's account here, and he's friends with myself and Eric and other members of the team. But also you'll start to notice on the bottom left over here this idea of networks. And so Derek, you're out in California. You have the club that you're running out there. Imagine then that people have joined that network, and you maintain that site. Is that right? Or you have your own website. So when you arrive at that network, we have the opportunity to plug your site and send people off to it. Also, we have the opportunity, and I'll go one more here really quick. This is a tool that we want to start offering. We're calling them network sites. So if you're out there and you've already got one set up, but there are people that might not have the ability to do that or the budget to do that, and we offer this network microsite, if you will, and give you a little bit of training to be able to go in and maintain a site that we've provided for you. And so this is an opportunity to get those events up faster on your own, to be the admin for some discussions, all related around that interest. And so this template is good for a regional group. It's good for a special interest group, class, law school class. So, sure.
It's this month, and the technology has been delivered. What we've been dealing with now is we need to train our staff members for the network. So every network has a staff member sponsors it. So like if it's an alumni club, it's sponsored by a staff member with that club. We need to train those staff members, and then we need to train a volunteer to utilize them. So we're looking at, realistically, we're talking about within the next month rolling this out. Okay. And we're going to have 25 of those network sites that were agreed upon last year. The big tier 1 cities, the classes that are having reunions coming up, each of the divisions of the university, and the large Alumni Board of Governors represented special interest groups. So all those pieces those 25 will start out. They'll be the templates that other networks will be able to base from. And then working with the Board of Governors, we'll have a rollout of the other groups within the university over the next year.
Yes, because our 35th reunion is coming up.
Yes.
In June, and I was going to start creating a Facebook site for that, but it doesn't sound like I'm going to have to.
Well, I don't know about that, because I also think, it's much better to be in both places, honestly. I mean, even if this were here today, I would suggest Facebook is a great way to reach a lot of universities.
No, I'm just going to have my kids help me.
We really, I didn't want to prevent people who need to go to the next session from getting there on time. So I think Ryan and Eric will be out at the tables up here in the foyer following the session. But I did want to make a formal end to this period. So thank you all for coming, and thanks to Ryan and Eric.